Hare Krishna, welcome to this session about essence of Bhagavad Gita, where I have tried to present the messages of Bhagavad Gita in an abridged form for the newer people, and also those who already have understanding of Bhagavad Gita can refine the understanding, as I'm also trying to refine my understanding uh, through this process. I just try to think through the different aspects of Bhagavad Gita to come up with the abridged form. So the overall message or the overall presentation I have divided in 9 parts. First is ultimate instruction of Gita. Second, position of Krishna. Third, position of living entities. Fourth, need for surrender. Fifth, what happens if followed versus not followed instruction. If we follow instruction of Krishna versus don't follow, what happens then? Then insurmountable binding power of Maya. What is the best path to follow and why? Result of following Lord's instruction, and 4 activities Lord recommends us to do. So let's get started. First is ultimate instruction of Gita, which is called Charam Shloka. So at the end of Bhagavad Gita, in the 66th verse of 18th chapter, Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshvashvami masacha. And the translation is, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So here, Krishna is instructing Arjuna that don't fear, and you should surrender unto me. You give up all other subsidiary religions. You forget about karma yoga, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, everything. Forget. You forget about uh, your duties to different other living entities. You just surrender unto me, because Krishna is showing him the right path, what to do. He doesn't have to think about his other sub-religious paths which he was following so far. He was working on the uh, mental platform sometimes on the moral platform, but he can give up everything. Just focus on the instruction of Krishna. Surrender unto him. And then Krishna will take care of all the sins, and he doesn't have to worry about it. Moving on. One may say, okay, why Arjuna should follow Krishna's instruction? Who is Krishna, by the way? So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, 7th verse, Matta parataram nanyat kinchidasti dhananjaya mai sarvam idam protam sutre maniganayava. O conqueror of wealth, there is no truth superior to me. Everything rests upon me as pearls are strung on a thread. So Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. As per Vedas, all the corollary Vedic literature, Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, everywhere it is well accepted that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. So whatever instruction Krishna is giving to Arjuna over here, this is coming from the supreme source. It's not from anywhere in between, not from any mundane source, not from any higher power. It is coming from the highest power, supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. So that's Krishna's position. Next, what is our position? We are part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is Vibhu, we are Anu. We are part and parcel of Krishna. Wherefrom we understand that? In the 15th chapter, Krishna says, Mami vamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana manah shashtandriyani prakriti sthani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they're struggling very hard with the six senses, which include the mind. So, our mind, as mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, is our biggest enemy or biggest friend based on whether it is untrained or trained. So, we need to train our mind, and with the help of mind, we should try to deliver ourselves. Otherwise, this mind and the six other five senses, total six senses, are constantly forcing us to struggle in this material world. Sometimes we feel like we are enjoying, sometimes we feel we are not enjoying, we are suffering. But the so called enjoyment in the material platform is also nothing but suffering because this enjoyment is temporary, it's not going to last longer. And this is the source of next suffering. So, therefore, those who are wise person, they never pay their attention on any temporary material pleasure because that will invariably, in due course of time, get converted into pain. So, this is our position. We are eternal part and parcel of Krishna. And we are also qualitatively same as Krishna, though quantitatively we are different from Krishna. We are Anu and Krishna is Vibhu. We are very insignificant compared to Krishna. But when you talk about quality, from that perspective, we are same as Krishna. But when we talk about quantity, we are totally different from Krishna. He's like ocean, and we are just like one drop from that ocean. Now, next comes the point: need for surrender. Why do we need to surrender? As we heard, the ultimate verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita is Sarva Dharman Pratyajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Praja. Krishna is saying that just come and surrender to only me. So why to surrender? We are, you know, having happy life in this world. Doesn't seem like it's very difficult. We can make our decisions and we can move forward. Why do we need to surrender? The point is we come across different kinds of problems in due course of time in our life. Some problems are smaller, we can easily resolve those. Sometimes it is a little bit bigger. We may try to seek help from professionals or somebody else. But sometimes some problems we come across which nobody can resolve. No material help is sufficient to come up with a solution. And exactly that was the situation of Arjuna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we often also come across that kind of situation. What to do? Should we do this or should we do that? We become puzzled. And our intelligence, our knowledge becomes insufficient to come up with the right kind of decision. Arjuna was very, very qualified, and his senses were very, very strong and also restrained properly, within totally under control. And he was very intelligent person, very knowledgeable person, and a sober devotee of Lord. But he could not solve his problems on the basis of moral understanding. This became insufficient for him to resolve the problem. How come he can attack his grandfather? How can he can attack his uh, guru Dronacharya, who taught him everything about warfare? And how can he attack all other relatives and friends? He didn't find proper basis for doing so. So he got puzzled. When he spoke to Krishna, after totally getting puzzled, he also gave 5 different reasons why he should not fight. And still, he was not satisfied. And he kept his bow and arrow down and asked to Krishna, Karpanna dosha upahata sabhava prichhami tam dharma samhuda cheta yeshaya sanishchitam bruhitanme shishyasteham sadhimam tam prapannam. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So here, Arjuna understood that the problem he is facing in the battlefield of Kurukshetra cannot be resolved by his own power, own intelligence. And therefore, he sought instruction from his spiritual master, Krishna. So, for other living entities, other human beings who may not be directly in contact with Krishna, which is obviously the case, then for them, the instruction is one should reach out to their spiritual master and seek guidance. Otherwise, in this material world, we often become very puzzled. Then moving on, what happens if not followed versus followed? There is a typo. So it's not followed versus followed. Basically, the instruction is Sarvadharman Parityaja. Krishna says, and Krishna also have given many instructions. But if one won't follow those instructions, then what will happen? Krishna says, Matchitta sarvadurgani mat prasadat tarishasi athachettam ahankaran nashoshayasi vinakshasi. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditioned life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So that's very alarming. When Krishna is saying you will be lost, means if we are lost from the path of progress towards Krishna, then what remains? And here the loss means we'll be lost in the cycle of repeated birth and death. Means we won't be able to overcome that cycle. It will continue forever. Therefore, to get rid of the cycle of repeated birth and death, we must follow the instruction of Krishna. In this material world, whether we understand or we don't understand, it's a place of misery. Here we have different kinds of misery. Adhyatik, adibhautik, adidaivik, means we get some problems due to our own mind and body. Sometimes we get problems due to others' mind and body. And sometimes we get problems due to higher orders like floods, earthquake, fire, tsunami, all those things. So these problems keeps on coming. And then on top of that, we have birth, death, old age, and disease. These things we cannot overcome. And as we keep on taking birth, these things will keep on getting repeated. And especially at this point, as Kali Yuga is progressing, life is going to be more and more miserable for everybody. So therefore, there is it's not a good idea to be lost. So therefore, we should try to come out of this cycle of repeated birth and death. Now, if we try to do it all by ourselves, what will be the consequence? The consequence is this Maya or the external energy, illusory external energy of Lord is insurmountable. It binds like anything. And Krishna himself says that. Daiva hi esha gunamai mama maya durataya mameva ye prapaddante maya metam tarantite. This divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So there are three modes of material nature. We know Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. So by default, when we engage in any activity or any thought process, we are always influenced by these three modes of material nature. Therefore, we should always understand that we are conditioned. Therefore, our activities, everything are conditioned. And therefore, we'll get bound in this material world more and more. Till the time we surrender unto Krishna. And if we surrender to Krishna, then the whole journey back to Godhead, it will be just like water we are going to cross over, which can be held in the footprint of a calf, versus the ocean of material existence, which we cannot cross because Maya is insurmountable. Krishna himself is saying, Duratvaya, you cannot cross over. Maya is insurmountable. You cannot. So therefore, one should take shelter of Krishna. Otherwise, we cannot cross over this ocean of material existence. Now, the question then may come, okay, there are different paths Krishna have provided in Bhagavad Gita. What is the best path to follow and why? Now, people often don't understand the supreme position of Krishna. And at the same time, they want to get quick results by worshipping different demigods. In Bhagavad Gita, it is mentioned, Kamistaste Ritagyana Prapattante Anna Devata. Means when we have different kinds of desires, we approach different demigods because we have different material desires. And we try to follow different rituals accordingly. But whatever we get from the demigods is all temporary. Moreover, everything is supplied by Krishna himself. And on top of that, if we have any faith on any demigod, like Lord Shiva, Indra, Durga Devi, if we have any faith on them, the strength of that faith is coming from Krishna. Krishna is the glue of that faith. He, he creates that bonding very strong. So we cannot have strong faith on any demigod without the mercy of Krishna, without the power of Krishna. But what happens if somebody is surrendering to Krishna or asking things from Krishna? Krishna takes care of our material desire for sure. But the point is, if you are asking for anything, everything is coming from the original storehouse, that is Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhava matta sarvam pravartate. Everything coming from Krishna. He is the source of everything. And if we get things from Krishna, that is his mercy directly coming from Krishna. And ultimately, if we can please Krishna, we'll go back to Krishna's abode, wherefrom we'll never come back. Jasmin gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. That is Lord's abode. We never come back if we go to his abode. But on the other hand, if we please the demigods, temporarily we may go to their abode. But after some time, we'll have to come back again to this earthly planet. So there is no permanent relief. And regarding demigod worship, Krishna says, Yapi anna devata bhaktya yajante shraddhayannita te api mam eva konteya yajanti avidipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me. or son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. So worshipping demigod indirectly benefits Lord. But the point is, this is not the Vidhi Purvakam. This is not the right way of worshipping Lord. This is a wrong way of worshipping Lord. So that's what Krishna is saying. One should worship Krishna directly rather than indirectly worshipping him through demigods, by worshipping demigods, which is wrong way. Now, continuing with what is the best path and why. There are different yoga process Krishna mentions: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. So we'll go by those different yogas to understand which one is the best and why. First, we'll talk about Karma Yoga. So by default, whatever activity we do, these are on the material platform. These are kind of vikarma that doesn't give any benefit to us. Then comes fruitive work, when one does something based on Vedic instruction to attain higher planets like Sargoloka, like that. That is karma kanda. But when one brings Krishna into picture, means I am doing all my activities, I am getting some fruits, and I am offering little bit of that fruit to Lord to please Him. That is called karma yoga. But then that is in the elementary level. This is called sakam karma yoga because my desires are very strong. Material desires are very strong. Then comes nishkam karma yoga, where my desires are lesser. I am doing things only for the pleasure of Krishna. I am offering all the fruits to Krishna, but I am sticking to the activities which I like. I am doing my job because I like that, but whatever fruits I am getting out of the job, I am offering everything to Lord. That is called Nishkam Karma Yoga. And then comes Bhakti Yoga, which we'll cover next later on. But if we are stuck somewhere in Karma Yoga, then we don't go to Bhakti Yoga. Karma Yoga is the best recommended path for the materialistic people who can step by step go towards Bhakti Yoga. But the risk is if we get stuck somewhere, then we are stuck there. You know, if we don't progress, then we'll be called as Karma Yogi, Sakam Karma Yogi, Nishkam Karma Yogi, wherever we are stuck. That's the risk. So one should progress when one is in Karma Yoga. Then comes Jnana Yoga. After Karma Yoga comes Jnana Yoga. So Jnana Yoga is when somebody is very much frustrated with the material world. Then they would like to renounce everything and they would like to cultivate knowledge. And often they go with the path of impersonal Brahman realization. They would like to merge with the Brahma Jyoti. Now again, the absolute truth has three features. Vedantita tattavidat yat tattam jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmiti bhagavaniti shabdayate. So the absolute truth has three features: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So those who are in the very lower level, very premature level of God realization, they go for Brahman realization. Then when they get further mature, they go for Paramatma realization. And finally, the Bhagavan realization, or attaining the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. But Jnana Yogis mostly they go for impersonal realization, and which is very troublesome. Klesham adhikataras, and it takes many lifetimes. So here Krishna mentions Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapaddate Vasudeva sarvam iti samahatma sudurlabha. So if one is pursuing the path of jnana, they may take many lifetimes to come to the conclusion that Krishna is the supreme personality of God and he is all pervading. So after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So Krishna is mentioning over here that after many, many lifetimes, one who is in knowledge ultimately surrenders to Krishna. But by the time many, many lifetimes are passed, if one is trying to attain perfection in one lifetime, then definitely Jnana Yoga is not the right approach, because one will take many, many lifetimes and there are a lot of risks, lot of sufferings involved in that. So Jnana Yoga also is not the good option. So we have gone through Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Next we come to Dhyana Yoga. Krishna gives some glimpse of Ashtanga Yoga in Bhagavad Gita. And when he gives how to perform the description of how to perform Dhyana Yoga, Arjuna got scared. And he said, it's impractical. I can, control the wind, but I cannot control the mind, because mind is very, very strong. And without controlling the mind, one cannot get perfection in Dhyana Yoga. So Krishna says, Prayatnat natamanastu yogi samsuddha kilvisha aneka janma samsiddhas toto yati param gatim. So in Dhyana Yoga also, to get perfection, one will have to take many, many births. It requires effort spreading over many, many lifetimes. So the translation is, and when the yogi engages himself with science, with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being vast of all contemplations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So this is also not safe. So the process of Dhyana Yoga, one will have to follow this process for many, many lifetimes. And that is a risk. If one wants to attain in single lifetime the supreme goal, then Dhyana Yoga is not the right option. Also, Krishna says, Yoginam api sarvesham mad bhaktena pratanantaratmana Shraddhavan bhajate yoga samayukta tamamata. So the best kind of Dhyana Yoga is to always remember Krishna. So that is the best kind of yoga, Dhyana Yoga. So instead of going for different kind of gymnastics, as Prabhupada says, we should try to focus on Krishna. And that eventually leads, if one is constantly focusing on Krishna, meditating on Krishna, then that leads to Bhakti Yoga, which we are going to discuss very soon. Now, we discussed previously there are three modes of material nature: Sattoguna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. Mode of goodness, mode of passion, and mode of ignorance. Just to give a glimpse, Sattoguna is something which helps us to take right decision, though in material platform, and which gives us peace and calmness, and it gives us knowledge. But when we are in mode of passion, we become very active, we want to achieve a lot of things, and we become very competitive. And when we are in mode of ignorance, then we become very lazy. We become, the anger becomes very uncontrollable, and we think about harming others or ourselves like that. So these modes are, even if you go for Satagun or mode of goodness, this is very binding. So therefore, if one is bound in this material world, that's not the solution. So one should go beyond the influence of these three modes of material nature to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, these modes will always pull one downwards. And whatever best intention we may have, whatever best kind of knowledge we may have, we will always get bound by these three modes and will be pulled downwards. We cannot escape. Then what is the way out? Krishna says in the 14th chapter, Mam chayo bhavacharine bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. So, if we want to transcend these three modes of material nature, then we must follow the process of devotional service. And that too should be unfailing in all circumstances. Like today is not so cold, therefore I can perform certain devotional activities. Tomorrow it is very, very cold, so therefore, sorry, I cannot. I'm feeling very lazy. So I skip or, do little limited activities. That way we lose our regulated lifestyle, lose on our regulated lifestyle, and therefore we cannot overcome the binding of these three modes of material nature. But if we are unfailing in all circumstances and we strictly follow the process of devotional service, then we can surpass the influence of these three modes of material nature and get engaged in bhakti yoga. So, as we discussed the last option as bhakti yoga, why really we need to get involved in bhakti yoga? Because surrendering unto Krishna is nothing but bhakti yoga. This is one aspect of, means bhakti yoga is incomplete if we don't surrender to Krishna. And then there are deeper uh, level of shelter. But why do we need bhakti? Krishna says clearly, Bhaktyamam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tattatvaha tatto mam tatto gyatva vishate tad anantaram. One can understand me as I am, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only by devotional service. So the process of knowing Krishna is only through the process of devotional service. And when one is in full consciousness of me by such devotion, he can enter into the kingdom of God. Vishate tad anantaram. Vishate means enter. So one can enter into the kingdom of God. So bhakti is very, very important. Then only one can enter into the realm of King's Lord's kingdom. So it's very, very important to get engaged in bhakti yoga. If we are engaged in jnana yoga or dhyana yoga or any other path, eventually we need to come to the path of devotional service to finally attain the supreme abode. So bhakti is the only way through which we can surpass the bindings of the three modes of material nature and eventually go back to Godhead. So that is very, very important. Next, then we come to the point, what is the result of following Lord's instruction? So we have discussed that one should follow Lord's instruction, surrender to Lord, and follow the path of devotional service. Now, if we follow Lord's instruction, what happens? As Arjuna carefully heard Krishna's instruction and accepted by heart. So when at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna asked Arjuna, did you understand that properly? Basically, he was ready to repeat all the instructions if Arjuna didn't understand that. But what Arjuna replied? Arjuna vacha nastamoha smritirlabdha tat prasadan maya chuta sthito asmin gata sandeha karishe vachanam tava. Arjuna said, my dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt, and am prepared to act according to your instructions. So all the illusions are gone. Initially, there are a lot of confusion, lot of illusion, but by the mercy of Krishna, as Arjuna very obediently initially surrendered and then followed the instructions given by Krishna, all his illusions are gone, and all his doubts are also gone. And now he's ready to act according to Krishna's instructions. So basically, action should be performed to please Krishna. That is the ultimate goal. Otherwise, if we perform any activity, it will bind us. Krishna says, Yagyarthat karmana annatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma konteya mukta sangha samachare. Means, if we perform any activity, and if that is not for the purpose of pleasing Krishna, then it will be very binding for us. It will bind us in the karma bandhana. Due to fruitive activities, we will get bound in this material world. Therefore, to get rid of this binding, we should always perform activities to please Krishna. And how to please Krishna? When you follow instruction of Krishna and act accordingly, Krishna will be automatically pleased. So here Arjuna is ready to act according to the instruction of Krishna to please him. Therefore, this is nothing but pure devotional service. And Arjuna was ready to fight. So we saw the immediate result of that. Now we'll see eventually what one can attain if one would follow Krishna's instruction. Krishna says, Mam upeta punarjanma dukhalayam ashashyatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gata. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. So this material world is called temporary place of misery. We don't understand that in normal sense. We are getting this from Bhagavad Gita. We are very hopeful in this material world that we'll enjoy. If we are not enjoying today, tomorrow we'll enjoy. Our life will be better very soon. But that's not the case. Kali Yuga is progressing. Life is going to be more and more miserable, as instructed in the scriptures. So if you try to enjoy, it is as good as one is trying to enjoy in a jail, or one is trying to enjoy in a hospital. These places are not meant for enjoyment. These places are meant for correction. We get corrected and then we come out, come back to our normal life. So for us, the normal life is our original home, the spiritual world. Therefore, we should try to go home back to Godhead. So that's why Krishna is saying over here that once one attains Krishna, they never come back to this material world, which is a place of misery. One won't have to take birth again. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that if we know Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Yevam Yo Veta Tattatoha, Tatta Deham Punarjanma Nati Mameti Sarjuna. So if we know Krishna's appearance and Krishna's activities, then after knowing that, we will never take birth again in this material world and we'll go back to Godhead. So that's the benefit of knowing Krishna. That's the benefit of following Krishna's instruction. We'll attain the supreme abode of Lord and we'll come back to this material world to suffer. And finally, the four activities as recommended by Lord at the end of Bhagavad Gita in the 65th verse of 18th chapter. This is also one of the ultimate shloka, what Krishna tells eventually to do. Manmana bhavamad bhakta majjaji mam namaskaru mam eveshyasi satyam te pratijani priyasi me. What are the four instructions? Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage. These four things we need to do. Always think of Krishna, become his devotee, worship him, and offer obeisances to him. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. We are also very dear to Krishna, and we follow the instructions given by the spiritual authority, discipline, bona fide disciplic succession, and they are very dear to Krishna. And if we follow their instruction, we will be also very dear to Krishna. So if we follow the instructions, these four instructions, then Krishna promises that we'll go to him without fail. We'll go home back to Godhead. And that way, our life will be successful. We'll attain perfection. That is the ultimate goal of our life. So with that, we are going to end today's discussion. I hope the understanding got a little bit clarified how Krishna wanted to bring us to the position of surrender and wanted to tell us why it is so important to follow his instruction. With that, we are going to pause over here for today. Thank you for your time and patience. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय.